Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Wellness with Dr. D. I am really excited to have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Alyce Croft. And Alyce, I've known Alyce for a few years now, actually, right? A couple of years now. And Alyce has a special gift. She has a gift of helping women get comfortable with their bodies. So Alyce Croft, she's a boudoir photographer. She is an NLP-certified coach, and she really helps women to connect and have that better relationships with themselves and their bodies. She's also a professor of philosophy, a world traveler, an exotic dancer, and a person who actually healed her own menstrual dysregulation, right, by connecting with her body, and now fuses all of these skills and experiences together to help women on their own journey so that they can feel comfortable and confident in their own bodies. So Alyce, I'm excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I love talking about this topic, and it's so good to connect with you and your audience. So thank you.
It's one of those things. People are like, well, Dr. D, what on earth does stripping women down to their undergarments and taking pictures have to do with our health and well-being, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a valid point. And you know, a lot of women are just taught to feel shame about their bodies, and we carry around this weight of, guilt for being, sexual creatures, guilt for just all of the labels that we've had put on our bodies. And women walk around carrying all of this, all of these negative ideas about themselves and their bodies. And so boudoir photography is a way for women to actually reclaim their bodies and view their bodies as their own, as something magnificent and wonderful. And, also looking at themselves and seeing the places where they think, oh, this is an imperfection or something, and being able to look at it in a different light and really be able to embrace themselves and their bodies.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big struggle today. I can tell you, and you've worked with our clients at South Bay Wellness too. It's a very large, gaping area that doesn't get a lot of attention because we'll have clients, for example, who come in and their goal is weight loss, and it doesn't ever seem like the weight loss is enough, right? Or they think that the weight loss is going to have them feel better or differently about themselves. And then they may initially, and then that kind of dissipates over time. Or, you see people who come in and they lose weight and then they gain weight back because they're uncomfortable still, even with that new body that they thought they wanted. And so I think that this is going to be a very powerful, insightful conversation for all of our listeners, because the wound, I think, runs deep when it comes to women and their connection with their body.
That's right. Yeah. And one of the things I found from my role as being a boudoir photographer is, it's not about just the changes in your body, because changing your body is not going to change your relationship with your body.
Can you say that again? Because that is probably one of the most powerful statements that I've ever heard. And I don't think it lands all the time for people. So I really want people to hear it. So one more time.
Yeah. So changing your body is not changing your relationship with your body. Mm-hmm. That's where that wound is. It's not, and I've met women, I've even been that woman who said, once I lose X number of pounds, or I can fit into that pair of jeans that's sitting in the back of the closet, like, the one, once I have this goal that I've reached, or maybe once I get that surgery, or maybe once I do this or I do that, and I've fixed that thing that needs fixing on my body, then I'll love myself. Then I'll be able to accept my body. And it
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way.
It
Yeah.
really doesn't. It really doesn't. I find that a lot of times there is, you know, the image of our body, our connection with our body, our relationship to our body, it impacts so many different things for people in their lives, from their self-esteem and their confidence to whether or not they see themselves as successful, not even in relationship with their body, but in their relationship with other things.
Mhm.
How do we begin to break free? Because it's like a chain. How do we begin to break free from that chain?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's really about working on the relationship with your body. And,
Mm,
today I know we're going to talk about our relationship with um, how we even approach things like uh, health and wellness. What is the mindset that we go into that with, as well as the role of like uncovering what are the stuck emotions within our body, what are the stuck narratives and the stuck stories and the stuck people and events that are in our body, because that's really where this issue is. And I've had women come into my studio who they look like they are the like, look up perfect body and it's like this person in the dictionary next to it, right?
right.
They've got the washboard abs, they've got, they've got it all. And I'm doing this photo shoot with them and they're just critiquing every little tiny thing. And it's like, I can't even see what you see in yourself. Like, you're saying that's fat. That's not fat. That's not fat. Uh,
Right.
it's a completely just a different way of relating to their body. And it honestly like breaks my heart. And I'm not saying every single person who has worked on their body to this level is doing this, but I've noticed that there tends to be a lot of story that goes along with that they have to be the best and they have to succeed and they have to be perfect and they have to, it's this litany of things that they're putting on themselves. And then I've seen other women come in and they are curvy and they are beautiful, but they don't fit the standard of what we in our society promote as being beautiful.
Right.
And they've loved their images because they've worked on that relationship with themselves. And that's really the most important thing, is having that relationship that you've built with your body. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So how does one go about coming to that place where they start to dive into their relationship with their body?
I think one of the most important things you can do is listen to how you're talking to yourself
Mm,
and about yourself. So these are the stories and the narratives that are going on in our head. And, sometimes it can feel like it's even a different person who's saying these things. And it might be the memory of something that your mom or your dad or a teacher or, some mean kids at school would say. And then that's been adopted and that filters through your mind and goes into your unconscious, and it's living there in your unconscious. And um, we have to shine the light on that part of our unconscious mind.
yes. Yes. So looking for these patterns, looking to hear these repeat thoughts, it's kind of like taking them from maybe they're not kind of in our they're more in our periphery. I think that's kind of the visual that I have. They're in our periphery. We don't really see that they're happening, but they're having this big impact on us and our lives. And how do we begin to break free from them? How do we begin to say, okay, I see you. Now what? Right? I see you. Now what? Because the truth is, I find that women have a lot of pain when it comes to images around their body and their relationship with their body and their weight, and it impacts their lives in so many different ways. Like, I have had people tell me that they won't go out with their friends because they're uncomfortable the way that they look. And of course, we know that there is an epidemic of eating disorders and things like that in our society as well. That, of course, is fueled by all of this.
Mm. Yeah. Well, the first step is always awareness. And so it's asking the questions of, well, what would it be like if I did have that perfect body? What would I have? What would
Mm.
people think of me? And then you're getting at what is it that you actually want? And that's going to be different for every person, because it might be like, one person wants to look good so that they can have some sense of power with their physical appearance. Maybe another person just wants attention. Maybe another person wants the opposite of attention. Like, I just don't want people to look at me.
Wow.
and why? And so it's looking beyond what the surface level answer is to any of these questions. And if it's like, okay, well, I just want to look good in my clothes. Well, what does looking good in your clothes give you? What does that do for you? And then you're starting to look at what your deeper needs are, and you might also be looking at the stories that have been told about you. Um, and a lot of women are told the story of like, our worth is in our beauty.
Mm.
We can kind of use beauty as almost like a currency. Like it's our power, women. And there's some truth to that. There's beautiful people have certain amounts of power because of that. Um, but there's also this need, I think, for, it's easy for anyone to say, well, our culture at large pushes women to want to be beautiful. And then we have all these unrealistic beauty standards. And that's very true. But beauty is something beauty is transcendent. It's beyond just, looking a certain way. We can participate in beauty at any time. So if that's something that potentially is lacking, you can actually step into the role of participating in beauty as this bigger and larger thing. The way that you interact with your children can be really beautiful. Going for a walk down the street and praising a beautiful flower is participating in beauty. Like waking up in the morning and saying a prayer at dawn is participating in beauty. And I think when you start to feed your soul with beauty, it's going to be expressed from you in a way that goes beyond just the silly ways that we tell women to be beautiful now. And it's like, what is your standard of beauty anyways? It's always changing. It's like now it's like you want to look like a Kardashian, and before, like pluck all your eyebrows out. Like it's just this constantly changing thing. Like where can you actually tap into the beauty that is eternal and unchanging?
I love that. I love that. I so love that because we're almost stuck in a little box of what beauty seems to be when it comes to women, and then starting to dismantle that and really look for true beauty. It is breathtaking in its own way. It's the word that comes to mind. It
Yeah.
really is about opening up a whole new universe to see things in a completely different light.
Mm. And I think the other shift too is the way that, again, it's the relationship to our body. And because we live in this really materialist, world where everything is like reduced down to its physical matter reality components, it's like we're all, we're told this story, which is a story, that we're composed of atoms and waves of energy, and that's what we are. And so this physical body, it's funny, like people call it a meat suit, and even if you're taking that idea and you're kind of spiritualizing it as saying, well, my body is a temple. I take umbrage to that one too, because it's giving us this idea that we're just this, that our physical body is like just this vessel of something. And even if you do have a spiritual component of it, it's like God is residing somewhere within. Like there's a little special like God box or our spirit box. It's somewhere inside there, probably in the heart, I guess. And that's where God dwells. It's there. It's only there, and the rest of this little floppy Play-Doh suit is for this little tiny thing inside of us that allows God in, and that's not true. Every single cell of your body is the temple of God. God is moving through it and through you. And so when you recognize that your body is God itself, not just the holder for God, but a living and breathing, animate expression of God, that we are the mothers of God in every moment that we're birthing God through us. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful relationship to have with your body.
Yeah. I love that because I mean, it makes me think about how we don't have a lot of love for our body, right? God is that expression of love.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people come to me and they really just want to fix, right? They
Mm-hmm.
want to fix versus embrace and love. I mean, how do you approach that with your clients?
Yeah. So I love this question because I know that a lot of people are coming to you with health concerns, and there's some interesting characters in this world of personal development and even like spiritualized personal development and health development, and it's a really funny perspective that takes on this role of we're fixing something. Our body is something to be fixed. And it really separates ourselves from our body instead of integrating ourselves into our body, being embodied, because it's like taking your body and putting it under a microscope. It's like, okay, well, there's something wrong with your liver. Okay, well, let's just look at the liver, right? And you know this as a holistic practitioner that you don't just look at the liver. It's a whole unit. And I've found that a lot of the perspectives with these sorts of things, and even when it's not just about your physical body, it can be about I'm fixing a problem. I have this problem with not loving myself enough, so I just need to fix this problem. And it's like you're working on something. It's like you're working on a car, right?
Yeah.
Where like sometimes you hear people in this space and they're talking about you need to optimize your health. You need to be more efficient. You need to be better, faster, harder, stronger. It's like, what are you doing? Building a rocket ship? Like,
I love that.
it's great, because I really appreciate and love that we have those people who are going for that, and they're just like optimization engines. They're
Yes.
like pushing things forward. It's very masculine. It's incredibly masculine.
Yes.
And um, you know, I like to think of it instead of working on your body or working on something. You're not working on a car. You're working with. You're working with your body. And that
Yes.
means that you're developing a relationship with your body. You're honoring your body. You're honoring cycles. You're honoring balance.
Mm.
And that's really powerful medicine.
Yeah. I want to touch on something that you said because I think it's important. And that is that a lot of the times when we're thinking about our body, we are kind of looking at it from that masculine side.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we embrace the feminine side? How do we start to bring more feminine into our relationship with our body?
Yeah. So we're speaking at an archetypal level, obviously. And the archetype of the feminine, we can even think about the womb space because that's a distinctly feminine space. And it's the space of nourishing. It's the space of resting and growing. It's like that energy of putting the seed under the ground, and you're giving it time to be nourished, not time to rest. And then you're also recognizing that things grow in their own time, and that there's cycles. So you don't just plant the seed and then dig it up. Like, are you growing yet? Like, I want to see some progress. Turn in your seed report growth now.
Yes.
You're like giving yourself that space to relax. It's about allowing, it's about surrender, it's about nourishing. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest words that we can use when we're thinking about feminine approaches, is that we're nourishing. And there's definitely a way of moving too far in the opposite direction with the feminine side of things. Having lived in Austin for a few years, there's definitely a culture there that's like the women's pleasure priestess, like just tapping into your yoni. And I've heard women say like, well, I wake up and I spend 3 hours pleasuring myself in bed, and I'm like, good for you. I'm glad you can do that. I don't know how sustainable that is for most of us. Um, but it is tapping into your body,
Yeah.
and being embodied and doing practices where you're feeling inside of yourself and you're relating to your body. And oftentimes we're living outside of ourselves. We're living only in our heads, and we're not actually bringing our awareness down into our body. And that's really, really important.
It is. I do that all the time. It's like, oh, wait.
Yeah, like I'm just living up here.
I'm not just a head.
Not a floating head. Yeah. Yeah. And so, um, giving yourself the time to check in with your body. And there's a lot of people in our culture who, you know, your body is talking to you in a certain way. We call it symptoms. And instead of listening, it's like, well, I'll just pop some Advil, or okay, I'll just check out.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of harmful behaviors can come in when we start checking out of our body and we're not listening. And that can be like the person who overeats might be checking out of their body.
Yes.
And the person who, like, even when we're exercising, we can check out of our body. That's, just because you're doing a physical activity doesn't mean you're fully engaged with your body. That's where we have injuries come into play, when we're not listening to our body if we're exercising. And
Yes.
it's like, that's the masculine push of like, okay, I just got to go harder. I gotta go faster. I gotta do more. I gotta be more. I gotta. And I think there's, we have two sides that are polarized, as many things in our cosmos is. We've got the one pole and we've got the other pole, and we learn a lot from both of them. But the actual reality is that we need to integrate, is that we need to find balance. And that balance is going to look different per person, per season. And this is the beauty of embracing the feminine, is that it embraces the cyclical nature of our reality, this balance of give and take.
Yeah, I love that. I
Mm.
love that because so many of us, especially in this day and age, like it is easy to check out. It is easy to forget. It is easy to disconnect. We've got social media, we've got, information everywhere at our fingertips. Like everything's so immediate that just taking the time to be present, to be aware, to be connected to ourselves is it's what I've called in my TEDx talk. It's really become a lost art.
Yeah. And it's really important that we have this language coming that's in the pop culture right now of self-care and treat yourself and these sorts of things. These are feminine ways of being, and there's a light and a shadow to them. And we need to recognize that there is a light and a shadow to them, in the same way that we need to recognize that the masculine side has a light and a shadow. And oftentimes, it's easy to like move into one way of being more and then forget the other way of being. It's like, okay, I'm going to be really on task, and I'm going to be so productive. I'm going to be so efficient. I'm going to do all this stuff, and I'm going to get on, and I'm going to have the most perfect diet ever. And I'm just, and then there's like the pull towards the feminine side, which is saying like, no, you need to relax now. And
Yes.
then because there's kind of this, like you're being pulled towards relaxation, being pulled towards this time of rest. Sometimes that comes as having a big health event where it's like your body is like, we're pushing the stop button now,
Yes.
because you haven't given yourself that time. Or it can also just be like, man, I'm on this thing and I'm trying this diet and I'm trying to do the workout. I'm trying to do all the things. And then I fell off the bandwagon, and now I'm just like, and this is the part where the story comes in. And now
Yes.
I can't do this because I'm terrible and I can't do anything right and I can't keep things going and I'm bad and blah, 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 and I can't do it and blah, 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 and all these narrative comes in. And the reality of the situation is that you weren't listening to your body when it was saying, like, you need to flip into a space of relaxation. You need to know that this is going to be something that's coming. As women, we need to understand that if you're a menstruating woman, you need to understand, and even not, you need to understand that there's going to be points in your monthly cycle where you have to relax, and it's not good for your body to like push through as much as possible. Give yourself time to relax in those spaces.
Yeah.
Even seasonally, wintertime is not the time to push as hard as summertime.
Yeah.
There's joy in relaxing in the winter, and being
Yes.
a little bit of a cave creature at times.
Hibernating. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I think part of balancing those things is also related to our inner child healing, because um, there's the times where it's not just, we think about self-love, and sometimes self-love means that you are telling yourself to do the hard thing. That all the parents know those kids have to brush their teeth. They don't want to brush their teeth.
Yes.
And it takes discernment to know. That's why you have to listen to your body and get to know your body and understand the relationship that you have with your body, so that when your body is saying, from a wounded child perspective, but I don't want to eat the
Yes.
broccoli. I don't want to work out. And lashing out like that, versus like, I really need to rest right now. Like,
Mhm.
can I just please have some time to rest?
Yeah. Yeah. It's being in tune with that stuff that's really it's important, because when we don't listen, like you said before, it backfires.
Mhm.
One of the things that I think is important for us to talk about too is how the body itself, it stores those traumas. It stores those inner child issues. It houses those things.
Mhm.
And so when we're not paying attention, they kind of take over.
Yeah. And they get stuck. And, this is one of the reasons that people feel really uncomfortable with their body.
Mhm.
You have stuff that's stored in your body that's related to trauma. Of
Yes.
course, you're not going to feel you're going to feel uncomfortable in your body, because when you like feel into your heart space, there's that wound there. When you like settle into your body, there's tension that's there that hasn't been released, because it's that memory. And we can store people in our bodies. They're the energy, especially as women.
Yes.
We can store the energy of another person in our body. We can store stories that we tell ourselves, those things that our parents said to us over and over and over again, the emotions that we feel consistently that are triggering emotions, or the emotions of another person. Like if your parent had strong emotions and now that's living in your body, of course you're not going to feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think so part of the journey, I mean, you can tell us a little here about how you work with your clients, but I think part of the journey is actually, instead of just brushing off those emotions, brushing off those feelings, it's actually feeling into it, experience.
exactly. Yeah. And we're so conditioned to want to run away from big emotions, because often as humans we have this tendency to think like, oh, this bad thing is happening, and is this going to be forever? Like that video, I always think of this, that video of that kid who got his wisdom teeth removed, and he's like coming off the anesthesia, and his parents are like video recording him, and he's like, I feel weird. Is this gonna be forever?
Yeah.
And we can think like that. We can think like that when times are tough. We can think like that when we're experiencing a negative emotion. And really, our emotions, they come and go in waves. And oftentimes we'll be feeling the emotion and it's rising in its intensity, and then we just want to like not feel it. So we'll do anything we possibly can to distract ourselves from it, push it down, like repress it, or if it's if anger is the only way that you can express your emotion, then maybe it just comes out as anger instead of the real emotion, which might be like sadness or shame or something else.
Yeah.
But when we actually like feel into that emotion, it'll dissipate on its own. And especially if you're noticing where it's at in your body, one of the most powerful practices that you can do whenever there's an overwhelming emotion that comes up is, one, remember to breathe.
Breathe. Oh, that thing. That's
Yeah,
a
that
necessary component of life.
it's so simple, but it's so effective. Is remembering to breathe, and then where is this emotion in my body? Get
Yes.
curious, be curious, and it can be like, wow, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in my heart, and it feels like it's like fiery and like radiating.
Yeah.
Or maybe I feel it in my gut and it's like heavy and like swirling, you know? Like, where is it? It's at my shoulders. It's really tight. What does it feel like? And it's not about, in that moment, it's not about, I have to fix it. Oh, I gotta fix it. Go away, go, go. But if you get curious about it, you give it the space to express itself, it'll move along on its own. Especially if you're breathing and you're being present with it. It might just want to be heard. And you can even, as strange as this sounds, what are you trying to tell me right now? What do you want to communicate?
Yeah.
If I could give you a microphone and let you speak right now, what would you say? Say that to whatever part is feeling that emotion.
Yeah, that's so powerful, right? It's so powerful because it's looking for a voice, so to speak,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
It's looking for that acknowledgement. And you're right. I'm thinking of the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, right? Going back to the conversation between the masculine and the feminine, how we just want to like bury it or fix it or get rid of it when it does need just that feminine acknowledgement, when it just needs that, that nurturing. It just needs to be seen and heard oftentimes, right? And that's enough to help resolve some of those negative emotions, those traumas, those pieces that have become so stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we do, both of us are skilled at NLP, and when we go back and we look at healing these traumas, it's crazy. There can be big physical effects that happen. That's part of my journey, and that's one of the things that led me to NLP and a lot of the healing practices that I went down, was because I started having very intense menstrual dysregularities, where my cycle was just all over the place, really painful periods. Like, it was awful. It was debilitating. And I was just trying to find something that would help. And unfortunately, with the way that our medical system is, it's just like, here, take some hormonal birth control, or here, like, we could rip your uterus out if you want.
Yeah. Maybe not the answer you were looking for.
Yeah, like, no, like, let's actually, the path forward was to heal the relationship with my uterus. And when I went to my NLP certification and we were, working with each other, what came up was a past experience of sexual trauma. And I realize now that had been living inside my uterus for a long time. And when I started getting that all of those symptoms coming up, it was my uterus saying, it's time to heal this. You need to heal this. Listen to me. I'm carrying this. I've been carrying it for too long. It's time to address this. And when I did, and we, worked through these techniques, of going back and healing that event, I had a dramatic experience where I felt like every cell of my body was being activated and turned on by like divine fire. And
Beautiful.
yeah, and I I really feel like that was the moment that changed everything for me. And then after that, I still had to work on my relationship with my uterus because I still had stories that I told myself about how I hate periods and how they're awful. And, you know,
Sure.
I had a story where this is how far I've come. I used to have a story where it was um, my B word of a uterus she just picks like the worst times. Like if I'm gonna go to a party or something, if I have something planned, she's gonna be like, ha ha, like there you go. Now you're bleeding. I'm gonna just punch you in the uterus. Like, I feel like I'm clawing my way out of you. Uh, and that was the story that I had. And because it was the story that I had, that was true. I just continually was getting my period at like the worst moments imaginable. And I had so much animosity towards this part of my body. And I didn't need to have that. And, you know, I was brutal. I was just like, I hate you. Like, you suck.
Yeah.
And now I've been working on that relation. I've worked on that relationship, and now we have a relationship where I would say like, "Hey, I've got this thing coming up. Like, it'd be really cool if you could, you know, work around that." And I've had several times where I'm like, "If you could just like, please start bleeding on this day here specifically, I would really appreciate it." And guess what? When I start bleeding, like, she's listening to me.
Yeah. Well, and she is you,
Yeah,
right? That's
exactly.
that's the whole beauty of the story is we forget that we are also our bodies. Like
Mhm.
where it's all one big organism. It's all
Mhm.
connected. It is not separate. And so when we're literally hating on our bodies, like we're hating on ourselves.
Mhm. And hating on God.
Yeah.
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 Like,
And
you did
none of that ends well.
something wrong.
Again,
Yeah, we're hating on God and saying, like, "You did something wrong, like, you fudged this one up," you know?
yeah, because we forget that we're perfect. Exactly as we are, exactly as we aren't. And, I do want to say, right? I think in some places in our cultures, it's like accept everything. Well, I think our health is still really important,
Mhm.
right? But our health and our relationship with our body and how we view ourselves, those those things they're intertwined in a very distinctive way that if we are actually just say, oh, well, I can have whatever I want or eat whatever I want and not care about our health, and that is still hating on our body in some respect,
Yeah.
And so understanding that those two worlds are actually still part of the same. And like you said earlier, it's about coming to that balance. It's about coming to that place where you're still loving yourself and, that it's almost like self punishment. It can exist in both worlds,
Yeah.
because I have seen clients who will take, say, for example, healthy eating and turn it into an unhealthy thing as well.
Mhm.
Right. And if we're not recognizing that relationship, then it can very easily become a dysfunctional relationship that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think we all teeter on it. I mean, gosh, I don't always look in the mirror and say, "Oh, I love every single thing I see." Heck no. Right? Or put on a pair of pants and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I am like this health guru, but look at that thing rolling over my waistline." Like
Mhm.
these are real things that we all deal with.
Yeah, and sometimes there's just acceptance about it. And especially we're all gonna get old, right? You know, it's even if you're the most beautiful, you know, quote unquote beautiful by beauty standards that we have currently today person, uh, eventually that person is going to age. And we don't really appreciate aging as much as we really could.
That's
There's a beauty to aging that we don't appreciate as women kind of are moving into the realm of being a wise woman.
Yes.
We just see her as like, well, you're not young anymore, like as if that's the best thing that a woman could be is like, like archetypally like you have to be this like young maiden who like needs her prince charming, and you have to be a nice rescuable woman who's pretty and quiet and all these different things. um and that's what we honor and respect in our society. Whereas learning to honor and respect women as they're changing, as they're growing, our bodies change and grow. Like we're not meant to be uh, prepubescent girls our entire lives, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it's a process, and I think there's some levels where it's finding the place of acceptance within that. I'm not saying that like I know there's plenty of women who are like, yeah, my hair is going gray, like yeah, like I'm counting my wrinkles, I'm like proud of every line, or like yeah, look at my rolls, like there's definitely women who can really step into that like body positivity in a way that I don't know if that's something that is available to every single person. Probably, if you do enough work on it. But having at least that step into acceptance of like,
Yeah.
you know what, this is where I'm at. You know, I, I'm not as thin as I used to be,
Yeah.
or, I'm not what I used to be. But actually, you know what? Where else have I grown? Like, well, my waistline has grown, but also I've grown in other ways. You
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. We have these views and opinions, and I love what you said about, how we look at the body as it's aging.
Mhm.
We're not embracing it. We're always just fighting it, especially as we change as women, as our bodies change, as our face changes, as our hair changes, as all those things change. And I find so often that, just it's not just with clients that I've worked with. It's kind of it's in the public, right? They're like, oh my gosh, there's grays. Let me color them. I've got to hide them, right? Because again, it fits within that standard of beauty that brings us to the point of there's something wrong with us. We're broken. We need to fix it versus we are whole and complete and embracing who we are authentically.
Yeah. My mom, when I was growing up, I'd always be like, oh, get flowers for mom, because flowers are nice, or, my dad would never get flowers, and he used to, and we found out that, she doesn't like flowers, and I was like, Mom, why don't you like flowers in the house? And she would just say like, I just don't like watching them wither
Hmm.
and grow old.
Oh,
And it really made an impression on me as a kid. I was like, "Oh, I remember not wanting to." It was one of those things where you're like, "Well, I don't wanna be like that." And a practice that I don't know, I'd call it a practice now, but it wasn't. I didn't think of it as a practice, is that I love having fresh flowers in my house, like, as many flowers as I possibly can, I will put in my house. People know this about me, so they'll give me flowers. And this summer there was a point where I had so many flowers in my house. It was uh, it was amazing, but there were so many flowers, and it was like this. I don't know this. It it felt like a sacred practice of keeping these flowers, because I had to go around and change out their waters, and watching them as they started to wrinkle. I just kept seeing their beauty. And I was like, I don't care that you've got some extra wrinkles and you've got some little brown tips. Like, I still would look at that flower and think like, wow, she's gorgeous, you know? And I'd want to keep them as long as I can, and just, keep appreciating their beauty. Because even though this flower is starting to, like you're seeing her wilt, you're seeing her like approach her, kind of end point. And all through that, I was like, you're just gorgeous.
I mean, that's really just beautiful.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
beautiful. I mean, I don't know too if you've ever had it's just making me think even as that's changing and that flower it still has its beauty all the way through the end. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been present for someone's passing, but
Mm,
there's so much. I mean, it's sad, of course, right? But there is also so much beauty in those moments as well.
mm,
So it really translates all the way around.
yeah.
So, speaking of practices, what are some of the practices that people can take on to begin to connect more with their bodies, to change that relationship with themselves, with their body?
Yeah. One of my favorite ones is a Taoist technique. It's called the inner smile. And it's as magical as it sounds. This is a technique that I used when I was healing my relationship with my uterus and all my lady bits. And it's something that you can kind of customize however you want to customize. But the basic practice is that you're sending a smile throughout your body, especially to your organs. So if anyone here is on a health journey if they know specifically that, um, I don't know, it's their kidneys or their adrenals or their liver or something that they're wanting to help that relationship, that part of their body needs help. Or even, the phrase that I hear a lot of times that comes up over and over and over and over again is, I don't feel comfortable in my own skin. So you can do this practice even with your skin, feeling your entire skin.
Love.
Yeah, so you just come into a space where you're sitting with yourself, take a nice few deep, satisfying breaths, and then you bring a smile to your face. And if you need to think about something that will make you smile, do it. It could be a friend, it could be cute puppies, whatever it is. And then you take that smile and you send it throughout your body, and send it with gratitude. And you can just send the smile, or you can say, like, you know what, thank you, heart. You're doing such a great job pumping all this blood through my body, keeping me alive. I love you and I thank you. Thank you, uterus. You're the seat of my creative power. You're that womb that has all of this magical potential to create life. And, thank you, skin. You're holding in my entire body. You're breathing in and out this permeable membrane, semi-permeable membrane between me and my external world. You keep me safe. You heal yourself. You're amazing. I love you. You just send that energy to the various places of your body. And even if you're not sending a thank you note, you can just, sending a little smile to my kidneys. Sending a little smile to my spleen. Because again, this is a relationship and you want to work on that relationship. And what relationship is it with somebody if they're just doing all this stuff for you? That's what your organs are doing. That's what your body is doing. They're like part of this. They're like part of your team.
Yes, they are.
Thank you. You're doing a great job. Like, pat on the back.
Yeah.
Give yourself that thanks and appreciation. And really taking that time to do that is helping build that relationship. And then when you have symptoms come up, you've already built a relationship, so you can kind of tune in and listen. What are you trying to tell me right now?
Yeah. It's a very different relationship than some of the things people say to their bodies. Heck, some
Mm,
of the things I sometimes say, like, what is going on with you? Right? Like, why are you doing that? Well,
yeah.
come from a whole different perspective. So
Mhm.
powerful. Really,
Yeah.
really wonderful. Thank
Yeah. Yeah, so that would be a major practice that I would recommend everyone at least try. It's, something that you might say like, okay, I'm going to do this every day for like a week and see what happens.
Yeah.
And just take note of how you feel after that.
Yeah.
And really finding other ways to get engaged with your body, like fully engaged, whether that's yoga or you can do forms of meditation that are bringing yourself into awareness of your breath and then feeling through your body, just noticing and just feeling, going inside, because we often live outside of our bodies. And just go inside.
In the head mostly, right?
Yeah, mostly in the head. Like you're more than just your head, more than
when,
just the
when
brain.
when you're working with a woman who comes in for a session and she begins to have those disempowering conversations about her body, what do you say? How do you approach her? How do you assist her in beginning to shift her perspective or her relationship with her body?
There's a couple things. We definitely want to look at the root cause of where those came from. Because oftentimes we have limiting beliefs about ourselves, and those were given to us as children, through events or through something that someone said to us. And so, where is this coming from? Where did what's the root of this? And then we can explore and we can provide some healing in that area. And then the other thing is, um, it's also just a practice. Like I call it catch and release, where you hear yourself say something negative to yourself. And first of all, you have awareness of it. And so that's the catch part. You're like, oh, I just caught this thing that I'm telling myself. It's like catching a curveball. And you're like, oh, okay, I caught it. And now you can release it. And that might be like, well, what do I want to say to myself instead?
Yeah, good
What do I want to
question.
believe about myself instead?
Right.
And sometimes we have to like kind of work our way up the ladder of like, um, if you're thinking like, man, I can't do anything right. I suck, whatever your internal thoughts are. Um, or, I'm ugly, if you're starting out from like, oh, I'm ugly. I think I'm disgusting. Um, it's hard to go go full 180 over to like, I'm so beautiful.
Right. Because the belief system isn't there to back that up.
Yeah.
It would
But
just
what can you believe about yourself?
yeah.
What can you believe about yourself? Maybe it's even like, wow, I'm really beautiful when I uh am cooking. I'm a great cook. I'm really beautiful when I appreciate a nice sunrise. I'm really beautiful in the way that I interact with my friends. Or, I appreciate my body for all that it does for me.
Yeah.
And even if it's like, I'm not in the space where I can fully believe that I'm so beautiful, I can at least say like, I really appreciate my body and all it does for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super powerful. Really, really powerful.
Mm.
These this wisdom, Alice, I think is going to have profound impacts on our listeners. So I'm really grateful. And I want to ask you, because I ask everybody this question, what are three actionable things that our listeners can take on to begin to take this knowledge and wisdom and actually have it move the dial for them in their lives?
Yeah. I definitely think try that inner smile exercise. Give that a try.
Yes.
Just take action on it. Just do it. See what happens. I think also doing that emotional catch and release of noticing when you're saying something that's unkind to yourself, unkind to your body, and
Yes.
then asking what you can believe instead. Um, and just start, step by step. It's, retraining yourself to be kinder to yourself, to believe better things about yourself. Um, and then, I think it's also just about recognizing when you're distancing yourself from your body. Um, and really just thinking about getting in touch with your body
Mm.
and being inside of your body.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much. Can you tell our listeners how they can learn more about you? Where can they find you?
Definitely. Yeah. So my main website is my boudoir photography website. And that's Alyce Croft Boudoir, BOUDOIR .com, Alice with a Y. And there's a tab on there that says healing, and that's where I do my healing work. I do one-on-one coaching with people, and also do photography. So yeah, and Instagram as well. Alyce Croft Boudoir on Instagram.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you to all our listeners who are here today and for joining us for another episode. We'll see you again next week.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.
This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, reconnect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together. See you next Thursday for the next episode drop.